There are some pieces that are a bit like a rite of passage as a piano student. There are certain pieces that it kind of feels like if you haven't learned them, do you really play the piano? Full disclosure, I haven't actually learned officially most of these, if any of these, actually. So you, of course, play the piano whether you've learned these pieces or not. However, it is interesting to see which pieces everybody likes to play and to maybe consider learning a few of those piano top hits as you're learning new pieces. First on our list is Bach's Prelude in C major from the Welton for Clavier Book 1. This piece is perhaps not the most famous piece on this list, but it is pretty widely recognized. It's been used in a lot of movies, commercials, who knows what else. And it's somehow something that, yeah, that rings a bell. It's also very common in weddings. It's a beautiful work. It's nice and relaxed. Even if you haven't been playing piano very long, even if you're not that comfortable reading music, it is an approachable piece in many ways just because it stays pretty static, it doesn't jump around a whole lot, and when it does move, it tends to kind of gradually shift to new positions on the piano. And so as a beginner piano student, I wouldn't say learn this piece in week 1 or week 2 of your piano journey, but it is something that's accessible to most pianists fairly quickly, even if you're not that comfortable reading music, even if you haven't been playing piano all that long. Next on our list is a piece that was for a long time attributed to Johann Sebastian Bach. However, this piece was not written by Bach. He did appreciate it though. He put it in a notebook for his second wife, Anna Magdalena. They probably used this notebook as a collection of pieces that they liked and that they wanted to use to teach their children music as well. And this piece is Minuet in G major by Christian Petzold. This piece is somehow one of the pieces that people seem to think you really have to learn, otherwise you don't know piano. It's something that people learn fairly early on in their piano journey. However, although it's shorter than the prelude that we have in place 1 on today's list, I think it is a little bit trickier for several reasons, mostly because the hands are more independent, there's a lot more moving around, there's a lot more jumping around. And it's, although considered a beginner piece by many, somehow it's really not that simple. So if you've tried this piece and struggled with it, don't be discouraged. It's actually not nearly as easy as it looks or as easy as it sounds, but it is a beautiful piece worth learning, especially if you like it, then add it to your list of pieces to learn. Third on our list today is the A minor arabesque by Burgmüller. Burgmüller lived around the same time as Frédéric Chopin and Franz Liszt. He did compose several advanced pieces for piano, but he also composed a lot of literature for piano students. And so there are a lot of pieces from Burgmüller that are accessible to play. And this particular piece is especially popular. It has a lot of energy, it's fun, and who wouldn't want to play this piece? It's just good, clean fun. If this list were strictly by order of difficulty, which it's more or less ascending, however, I think it probably should fall into place too. It sounds much more complicated and advanced than the minuet that was second on our list today. However, this piece is really atmospheric, it's very effective, but it's not so difficult to play. The biggest difficulty is getting these 16th notes that run all over the place really nice and clean the entire time. That's why, although there are certain elements that are maybe easier to coordinate than the minuet, that's why I put this piece third on our list today. Fourth on our list today is another that's very much associated with the early phases of learning to play the piano. However, it also isn't so easy. There are a lot of elements to coordinate, there's a lot of jumping, there are a lot of things that really aren't so straightforward, and that is Clementi's Sonatina in C major. Lots of students play the first movement. The entire sonatina is actually very worth your while, and if you're looking for something bright, happy, kind of a challenge but not too crazy yet, this might be a good piece to add to your wish list. And who was Clementi? Clementi was an Italian composer who lived around the same time as Mozart. Also composed some pieces that had very similar melodies to Mozart, and I believe at one point there was actually a dispute as to who came up with a certain theme first, and he was very unhappy that Mozart was generally considered to be the originator of that theme. Excellent composer, not in any way in second rate, he's just not quite as famous as Mozart and Beethoven. The fifth piece on our list today comes from our only Scandinavian composer on our list. This is a short but sweet little piece from Edvard Grieg. It's called Arietta. Like I said, this piece is short and sweet. That doesn't mean it's easy. It's not very long, but it does have a lot of complicated elements, particularly bringing out the melody on the top, keeping these flowing 16th notes in the middle voice nice and smooth, holding the bass line all the way through and making sure that we hear the bass line all the way through. A lot of really refined details that we need to work into this piece. If you enjoy listening to this piece, I absolutely recommend learning it. It has 3 flats, there are a few tricky things to look out for, but if it's a piece that you enjoy listening to, I can guarantee that you're going to enjoy playing it even more. Our sixth piece for today is another classic. This is the first Gymnopédie from Erik Satie. This is a work that almost everyone recognizes, and it's just so beautiful. There are a lot of elements that are maybe not quite as difficult as the Greek that we had one space before this on our list, but it is significantly longer than the Greek, and there's a lot of jumping, there's a bit more moving around. So if you're not quite as used to orienting yourself when you're moving around the piano, then I would suggest learning the Greek first and then the Zati, unless you just absolutely love this work and you can't wait to get started, then by all means break it into small chunks, work your way through it. I do have a tutorial on this piece, so if you're interested in learning it, the link will be somewhere around here. Do check that out and let me know if you have any questions making progress with this piece. The seventh piece on our list today is our first work from Chopin. Of course, Chopin has tons and tons of piano pieces that everybody wants to play. This is perhaps the most accessible of those. There's maybe one or two that could rival its position for most accessible Chopin. I chose this one because it's a little bit slower than the other candidates. It's a little bit easier to get under your belt perhaps. And while there are a few little spots that get a little bit hairy, by and large, it's quite manageable. This is Chopin's Prelude in E minor. It's the fourth of his 24 preludes. This piece was made particularly famous through the movie The Notebook. If you've seen that film, then I'm 100% sure that you know this piece. Also widely recognizable. Beautiful melody, just heartbreakingly sad, but heartbreakingly beautiful. And really lovely, enjoyable piece to learn. Eighth on our list today, you didn't think you were going to get away without Für Elise, did you? Für Elise, as it's often called, this is perhaps one of Beethoven's most famous works. Fun fact about this piece is that there really was no Elise. Beethoven was in love with a young lady named Therese, and he had asked to be able to marry her, and she said yes, but first you have to ask my father, and father said no. And this piece, ironically his most famous in many ways, is his most private and his most personal, that he never intended anyone but Therese to ever hear Für Elise in A minor by Ludwig van Beethoven. Last but not least, the ninth piece on our list of pieces that all piano students want to learn. It's perhaps actually the least famous on the entire list, but incredible and just really a showstopper. This is Solfeggetto in C minor by C.P.E. Bach. He is one of Bach's older sons, Johann Sebastian Bach, of course. CPE Bach isn't so famous. He was actually the most famous Bach during his lifetime and the years following his lifetime. He was the Bach that Beethoven actually really looked up to, and Mozart also. Really a very flashy, fun, enigmatic piece, so much energy. It is quite challenging to get all of those 16th notes really clean, and it's just non-stop motion from start to finish. A lot happening, but so much fun to play. So, which of these pieces are you going to start learning right away? Let me know in the comments below. I'm so excited to hear which ones you're looking forward to, and let me know which pieces you feel got left off the list. This is certainly not a comprehensive list. There's at least one more part coming at some point in the future, but until then, you have 9 pieces that you can work your way through. Until next time, happy practicing.